Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. For those of you that are new here, I am a professional intuitive empath, and I want to talk to you about some things that will help you up-level as you are doing your spiritual growth and ascension. One of those things is to understand that you will have masters, you will have mentors, you will have gurus, you will have teachers that come in and out of your life, and they are there to help you ascend to the next level. You guys know I always come to you from the mount from which I am standing on in order to give you whatever the lesson is that needs to be given. But I'm learning right along with you, hence the name of my channel, Evolving Together. That is truly my ethos and my motto. You will have people that come in and out. Some of you guys found my channel because you needed help with something, and maybe it was something I was going through at the time and I was able to provide that help. But as you heal and outgrow that, you will not need my channel or me. That happens with my clients, that happens with friendships, that happens with relationships of all kinds. We are often making transitions, and you would be remiss not to take the opportunity to transition when the universe, God, source, angels, ancestors, starseeds, aliens, whatever you believe in, provide you with your next up level or your next master, your next guru, your next teacher. They are provided for you because you have to grow. And everyone that you encounter doesn't know everything. They know parts and pieces to the story. Usually, I am in the position, or quite often, I have been a teacher in my actual life. You guys know about that. I spent a lot of time investing into self-mastery, so I get to be in that position. But I am often taught too. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. I've got to experience something recently where someone's come in to teach me something. Quite innocently, they've been sent in to be a teacher to me. I am highly cognizant and aware that I do not get to keep the connection with them. I know that there will be a time when we graduate and they have to move on, or I have to move on. And that is the nature of life. It is transient to have someone come in and teach you. We don't stay in the same grade. We don't stay in the same age bracket. We don't stay the same size when we're 5 years old. We evolve and we grow. That is the nature of a thing. And someone will come in who can help sharpen you. And that is absolutely necessary. I think of two things that come to mind. Marilyn Monroe and the various people that stepped in and out of her life as she ascended to her heights of fame and notoriety and celebrity. And then I think of something that I just binge watched here a few days ago, The Queen's Gambit. And I think of the first person that taught this young lady to play chess was her school janitor. And he was one of her first masters. And they encountered each other, innocently enough, with her seeking, with her seeking, and with him being able to be the teacher when he discerned that she was in fact a serious student, and that he could in fact tutor, that he could in fact tutor her. But as she grew and her skill set outpaced him, and he realized that he had a prodigy on his hands, he called in another master. He called in another facilitator to help up-level her to the place she needed to be. And as she surpassed them, and I believe one of the first things she did was a 12-on-1 chess game, a simultaneous chess game, where she's playing everybody. And some of these very same people that she played would later become lovers, friends, boyfriends, colleagues, if you will. And when she played the master of all masters, by the end of the series, she was being consulted by those same people that she had surpassed to a degree, because each of them held a certain degree of mastery that was able to help her catapult herself to the place in her life that was always meant for her and her destiny. It was such a powerful thing because I was watching all of the changing of hands that happened for that young lady in order to get her where she needed to be. Does that mean that she was not without her own genius? She was. The muse was moving through her. The genius was moving through her. She was the conduit of a powerful energy, intellect, and ability to push through her own self-sabotaging ways, message, and find a place of ascension. We will be challenged to pierce through our own personal darkness, our own personal addictions, our own personal predilections for distraction, whatever they may be, in order to achieve a certain level of greatness. But along the way, masters will come in. Some of them will be angels for you. Some of them will be earth angels. Some of them will be cosmic angels. Some of them will be starseeds. Some of them will be empaths. Some of them will be narcissists. Message, empaths. It's not all love and light. But what it will do is get you to a place of right. And what I mean by that is understanding. I have had to battle with real narcissists and real evil people. When you are light, you will attract the dark, but you have to embrace that. I'm really called this year to teach about our darker side. I'm really called this year to help you understand how to protect yourself from every angle. I'm called to talk to you about the 48 laws of power more in depth and about the art of seduction and all of that stuff. Because in order to understand your light side and in order to fully embrace all of that power that's there, you must understand the part that we repress, which is the dark side. And so in this season, maybe I get to be a teacher for you, but I promise you, you will leave me someday. And do not be sad about that. You will stumble upon another channel that holds other information for you, another person that is working on their own level of mastery, and they will have information to impart to you that will get you to the next level of your ascension. Embrace that change. You have to break up with your masters. You have to break up with your gurus. To stay under the tutelage of a guru or master, infinitesimally, is to be stunted in your growth, because a human only has so much to offer. Even the greatest authors, philosophers, and thought leaders only have their unique perspective, their unique DNA, their unique thumbprint to offer. And while we can become fans or sycophants, depending on our personality type, of these people, it is wise to understand that they are in your life for a season, everyone, including me. I have had to fire clients before, or I have been fired by clients before. I have had to walk away from jobs and situations, or I've been walked away from those things before. I have had to break up with people, or I have had to be the breaker upper. Yes, we all have a moment in our life where we will be called to really ask, does this serve me anymore? And when I've been on either end of those spectrums with clients, friends, lovers, you name it, I had to either take the L and assess what I did learn. That's one thing that I do as a teacher, is I'm like, what was the lesson? Even if the lesson plan went awry and we didn't stick to the bullet points that I etched out at the beginning of the quote-unquote semester, I still ascertain, did I learn my lesson? Did they learn their lesson? What was the lesson? And the big thing that I come away with from those questions are, the lesson was evolution, and also the lesson was release. In the 4 agreements, Miguel Ruiz, I believe, talks about attachment. I'm hyper cognizant and aware about that as an empath, who is definitely one of those people that could stand up and say, I'm a recovering codependent, right? So one of the things he talks about in the 4 agreements is that the second you begin to feel attached to a person and you want to own or possess them, you've already lost them. You need to be able to walk away. And that's why, if you notice, those culty relationships, those guru relationships can get absolutely toxic. Malcolm X said, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Or he reminded us of that phraseology. But we are all seeking power, and to not admit that is to be dishonest with yourself, sweet empath. To not admit that to a certain degree we are all seeking a level of status, a level of acclaim, even from our intimates, our loved ones, our close people in our life. So I want you to be honest with yourself about that. Yes, we are to manage the power dynamic, right? We are to manage the power dynamic of how we get into our ego. That is a great challenge. Every human here is susceptible to pangs of envy or jealousy or frustration or cross comparison to other people. The statistic is that 90% of people, or excuse me, 90% of our day is spent in cross comparison about what someone else got or this or that. To thine own self be true, but most importantly, to thine own self, sweet empath, be honest. Because in order for you to become the super empath that we all talk about, read about, and watch here on these YouTube streets and channels, you have to know what your dark side is. Now, people allude to this. I did shadow work. I did this and that, myself included, but it's been vague. You guys want to talk about shadow work? Let's talk about the 48 laws of power. Let's talk about our real human design. That's a different subject, but let's talk about the things that make us tick and the way to not be as naive as I think I certainly have been. I'll raise my hand first. So maybe I have something to offer here, and I'll do my best to impart it to you. But the thing I want you to know is break up with your guru, or at least go into the guru experience understanding you will break up with them, or you will be called to move on, and you will be called to ascend. I started out talking about the fact that I'm in this really interesting time where God has sent in a couple of people at the same time that are really up-leveling my whole frame of mind and thinking. And it is very easy in my human, normal, old school, outmoded thought patterns of behavior to become instantaneously attached because this fountain of great information is coming from this source. But I was really checked by my angels and my ancestors, and they said, we brought this person in because you'd pay attention. We brought them in a very specific way because we knew you'd pay attention. But beyond that, we brought them in because it was time for you to ascend. Now, that ascension didn't just come with that person. It came with light code activations, literally laser beams of light that actually were blinking at such a high intensity and rapid pace that I knew I was being downloaded with new information. It reminded me very much of my first encounters with angelic information, and it sounded like Morse code as I was drifting off into REM sleep. Beep, 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 beep. But this time it was in laser beams. It was in light. It was in actual conversations about the infinite universe and programs and things of that nature. So I didn't just receive it from a person. I was receiving it cosmically too. I understood that I was up leveling and it was time for another place of ascension. In the past, I've kept that to myself because it's hard to discuss that with your friends and family. But God sent in someone who's to a certain degree definitely understanding, and they came with tidbits of information and things that I needed to know. And in that way, I know that they are a teacher. That's something that my brain does. I think we all compartmentalize to a certain degree, but the way that my chart's set up, that's important for me to understand so that I don't misconstrue what's happening. Can other lovely things happen in any connection? Absolutely. But I'm very clear about what the purpose of this person is in my life currently, and I'm also very clear that their purpose is transient. In that, obviously they have their own free will and whatever the case may be, but as a teacher, I get the nature of teachers. We help people ascend to their next level. And I've been so grateful, so gobsmacked, and so overwhelmed by the goodness of the universe, by the goodness of God, by the goodness of whatever you want to call it, that they saw fit to send in a lovely teacher for me who's brought me little morsels of information that are fantastic. I mean, like huge morsels. They're not little. They're life-changing and life-shifting for me, but it was time. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear in whatever form or fashion, but I want you to remember that you don't need to hold the teacher near in order for you to get your evolution. If this person left my life today, I already have ascertained, unless she is given more to give to me, I've already ascertained that they were there to up-level me. I already have blueprints. I already have literature. I already have textbooks of information to research that will go on and on and on if she were to leave today. Because that was really the point. We can get lost up in all of the humanity of a connection, and that's something that I really pay attention to, because I pay attention to our emotions, empath. I'm an empath, right? I pay attention to that. And our attachments to our gurus, teachers, and masters can sometimes take us off course of the study. And I'm so called this year to pump out content, creation, work in various forms, but in different ways. And you have to pay attention when someone comes in to do that for you, and try as you might to center yourself in the experience of the ascension more than the experience of the relationship. Easier said than done. I too am guilty of being caught up, right? And actually loving some of my mentors, loving some of my teachers. Who doesn't remember their first favorite teacher? Mine was a 3rd grade teacher, right? Love her to this day. Her name was Miss Finnegan. And I adored her because she saw through to my soul and she up-leveled me. I remember Miss Holland in 2nd grade. I remember my creative writing teacher. I remember a 10th grade English honors teacher. We all have had encounters with people that shifted our perspective. But these people, if you recall, were transient, right? So it is wonderful, and it is a rare occasion, excuse me, when you get to hold on to somebody and they really get to travel with you throughout their lives, and your lives can intertwine and you can evolve together. That is an ideal, but it is few and far between. Most of the time, people have a cosmic assignment with you, and if you pay attention, you can extract the marrow from the bone, and then you can really create your next level of growth. So for anybody here that may be feeling like someone or something is something or somewhere that you are outgrowing, that's okay. And if the videos that used to call you, that used to watch on repeat, no longer appeal to you, that's okay. And if the literature that you immersed yourself into, or the Instagram feeds, or the social media scrolling you used to do is no longer that, then that's okay. If your algorithm is changing because your internal algorithm is changing, that is designed to happen so that you can move forward, because we cannot live in an echo chamber with people confirming our own thoughts and ideas that live exactly like we do. The things that I have been introduced to as of late have been mind-altering and mind-blowing for me in the best way. And it took me out of the position of very comfortable, I'm usually in the position of teacher, to being taught and to having to assess that. And then having to assess all of the things that come out of it and that tear down, which I just spoke with you about to some degree. Attachment, release, acceptance, all of the things that come along with having one of the best teachers of your life, or having one of the best masters of your life, or having one of the best gurus of your life. Back to the Queen's Gambit. That little girl, who later grew up to be a wonderful young woman, who was a brilliant prodigy even as an older young woman, she adored, I think his name was Mr. Scheibel, which was the janitor that taught her, but she couldn't take him with her, though she carried his memory with her, and she honored him whenever any newspaper person came to interview. And I recall earlier in the film, they were disregarding her as just some child, and they didn't print his name, and she remembered that. And later, when the world couldn't keep her name out of their mouths because her power, prestige, intellect, and I mean just absolute dominance in the chess field just was taking everybody's breath away when she was in Russia playing against the master of masters that had once beat her. That's another thing about masters and teachers. Maybe another lesson for another day. Number 1 rule of power in the 48 laws of power: never outshine the master. But there are moments when maybe you inevitably cannot help it, but there is a price to pay. In any case, we'll talk about that on another chat here. But what she did do with Mr. Scheibel later, when everyone wanted to hear what she had to say and no one was disregarding her as some, like, you know, prepubescent or teenage girl, she said his name. Because we never forget the people that impact us. We never forget the people that change our lives, that add structure, that add buoyancy, that add wings to our flight. We never forget that. And she made sure that, and she said, will you print it? And they said, absolutely, because at this time, you know, the world was her oyster. No one would turn her down. No one was disregarding her. She was not insignificant. She had made her mark, and she made sure to honor the teacher that started her and that had her heart. She couldn't take him with her. She had a breakdown. She actually went to his funeral, because we celebrate the ones that come in and out of our lives, whether they actually pass or they pass on. And that's something I would suggest for you. If you've had a great mentor, teacher, master, guru, you name it, and they were good to you, and it wasn't something that ended with brimstone and fire and drama and trauma, which is a high indicator that you're hanging on too long to a relationship with one of those archetypes. Do you understand, guys? So if it goes toxic, it's because, it could be because absolute power is corrupted, absolutely, and Malcolm never lied, or it could be because you've learned your lessons and it's time to graduate. We will often be pushed from the nest, even when we don't want to, when it's time for us to learn exactly how well we can actually fly, exactly how well the wings that were helped to be cultivated, shaped, and plucked and pruned, and all of the things by our master, guru, teacher, you name it. We need to test that out for ourselves. And a good teacher wants to see you surpass them. A good master, tutor, teacher, guru wants to see you surpass them. They come in and they offer you the food. They feed you the new thing. It is up to you how you ingest that. But you never have to forget them, and you can honor them ceremonially and like say thank you at your altar if you have one in your house where you pay attention to your ancestors and your helpers of any kind, or you can just light a quick candle and honor them and say thank you. You can blow out the candle like a birthday cake and say, I see you, I appreciate the light you gave me. This is not anything ritualistic out of a book. These are just things popping up to my mind, but there is a way to say, I see you, I hold space for you, and I love you. In that series, she did it by making sure his name was printed because she felt he deserved that. But she mourned him privately with a dear friend of hers when it was time to do that in real life, because we never forget those people that impact us that way. Thank them for the growth that they give you. But when it's time to release them and move on and find someone else who is going to be of service to you, do so. In YouTube and in our parasocial lives, a lot of us have relationships, parasocial relationships, with some of our favorite content creators, whether it's Tarot Channel or whether you're like into Philip DeFranco or whether you're watching Joe Rogan clips. We have a litany, a diverse litany of people that we are paying attention to. Acre Homestead for my preppers. There are all kinds of interesting things here. Any of the astrology, tarot channels, whatever, right? And I know that I have rotated through all kinds of interesting people, chats, talks, but we definitely find personalities that we gravitate towards. And for those relationships, it's interesting because we may hover and stay there for life, right? I know people that watch Philip DeFranco. They are never not going to watch Philip DeFranco. He just does news, essentially, but he's kind of huge, right? People that watch PewDiePie were never not going to. Before Jenna Marbles left, people that were devoted to her watched her, and they were never going to deviate from the path until she took her power and her space back in that regard. So there's nothing wrong with you wanting to stay and linger regarding parasocial relationships or interactions. But when it's master, teacher, student, guru, any kind of up level like that, you will be called to ascend and move on and to graduate. It is the human model. So I do not want you to think that you're crazy if you have a favorite YouTuber and you're like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, there are some readers that I love and I just like their personality, so I'm checking them out. I no longer need their readings. I no longer necessarily resonate with the readings, but I'll pop in every once in a while to see how they're doing, because it's like popping into an old friend, right? I'm no longer in the same energy vibration as I once was, where their readings were like manna and they really were helpful to me. So you have to know that, right? About that. Another thing here too is about meeting your teachers, idols, gurus, and masters, because inevitably they will be fallible, human, and there will be disappointment. And so you have to manage that and still be able to extract that marrow from the bone and decide what is going to be nutritious and nourishing for you, right? So that's the thing, right? Familiarity can breed contempt, and too much time around people that you idolize can turn into contempt and disinterest. That's something that I'm also hyper aware of, because in order for you to keep the line of tension there, of interest regarding the master-student dynamic, you have to feel like you are receiving a benefit from that connection. And it's got to be symbiotic, yes? They need to be benefiting as the person in that position, meaning they feel like their information is being utilized, and you need to be benefiting if you're receiving the information. You feel like what they are giving you is beneficial, nourishing, and helping to edify your growth. And as long as that level of reciprocity is existing, you guys can maintain a healthy dynamic. If it becomes that the teacher or the master becomes toxic and they want to be onerous of you in a way where they're like, now you're my student and you never go anywhere, anywhere, whatever, that is not someone who is grounded in their sacral chakra. It's not someone who's grounded in their root chakra. It's not someone who is grounded in their solar plexus. So those last three bottom chakras are out of whack because they're into the power dynamic of holding you there. And guess what? Inevitably, you will break free. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, what do I do if that happens? Nothing. The universe will orchestrate it where it will get so toxic that you will leave anyway, because it is always designed for that to be so. So even when you have the most incredible of experiences, understand it's fleeting intention unless you're like in the 1 percentile where this person is really meant to traverse with you through much of your life, right? And what you will notice about your master, guru, teacher, whatever relationship is, whomever is sent in for you will have their own agenda, mission, and their own wanderlust or desire for freedom in their own right as they are expansively growing too. Any teacher, master, any guru is going to be pushing themselves, if they are healthy, for continual growth in their own right. Okay? So even if they come in and it's haphazard, it's accidental, maybe you didn't go seek them out at an ashram, you didn't go to a retreat, a conference, or a seminar, but God just sprinkles in magic into your life and they are offering you teaching, understand the transient nature of that, but beyond understanding that, understand how to celebrate them when and if they do go, and also understand that do not be sad when that transition happens, for there will be yet another master that comes in, because the adage never fails to ring true that when the student is ready, the teacher, the teachers, the masters, the gurus, the educators will appear. That's what I have for you guys today. I love you so much. Come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together.